Chapter 37. Loot Barks. "This is a terrible idea," Remus muttered, shoving his way into the seedy bar and leaving the door open long enough for the dog and the invisible 12-year-old right behind him. Sirius Black replies, "No, it's a great idea. Party Harry Potter. Sirius says it's a great idea." They'd figured out party chat sometime during the semester, but since the active list of marauders had been the same as the party, they usually just used the guild chat. Heading out to Nocturne Alley to do some shenanigans with the elder marauders, though, made it useful. Also, at some point in the last few days, Sirius and Remus had both gone active again in the guild, so they'd likely need to use party chat back at school for anything they didn't want to distract the adults with. "That's him," Remus said quietly, nodding toward a man whose whole vibe said, "Over the hill, former sports star." Ludovic Bagman Broomrider, Level 10, Ministry, Gryffindor, Wimborne Wasps, Party Harry Potter. Wait, he was in Gryffindor. Sirius Black replies, "Yeah, few years ahead of us. I took over for him as beta my last couple of years." Remus Lupin replies, "Sadly, yes. That's how I knew where he'd be." Remus, indeed, had been familiar with Ludo Bagman when Harry had brought up the gambling issue and knew where the man took bets on Sunday evenings. It seemed a reasonable enough idea to go check out his operation after 2 solid days trying to clean up number 12 Grimmauld Place. Remus had assumed he'd be going alone, but Sirius and Harry had talked him into letting them tag along. "Lupin," Bagman announced, catching sight of the man. "Haven't seen you in months. Out of the country for work." Remus nodded, shaking hands with the thick-set man. "Stopped in for the holidays. Been keeping up with the Quidditch." Bagman grinned. "Got a pick for the New Year's match. Still not my sport, I'm afraid." The werewolf shrugged, trying to extricate himself from a conversation that was rapidly heading to betting. "Wouldn't even know enough to begin weighing them against one another." Fair enough," Bagman nodded. "Well, good to see you. Happy Christmas." He settled back at his table, which seemed to be the one that had the best view of the room while remaining private enough to take bets. "You too," Remus nodded, heading over to the bar. "Party Harry Potter. I'll be over here watching him." The relative privacy of the table meant Harry had found a spot near the wall that didn't look like he was going to be bumped into as he invisibly eavesdropped. Over the next hour or so, Harry certainly got an education about the things that went on at sketchy pubs. According to Remus, the Hag's Kiss wasn't even the roughest establishment in Nocturne Alley, which went deeper than seemed reasonable for the space magically hidden in the middle of London. This place was mostly just for folks that thought the Leaky Cauldron was too family-friendly, or at least didn't want their business gawked at by everyone heading from London into Diagon Alley. Given the disreputable characters and salacious behaviors on display, Harry hesitated to ask what the pub-goers got up to at the worse establishments even deeper. He was also getting a pretty firm insight into the way Ludo Bagman did business. All friendly conversations, coins slid across the table, and notes made in a book. A couple of people had asked for extensions on credit they'd been extended, and Bagman had been all smiles while issuing his threats. It wasn't boys with bats that might show up for them, no. He worked at the ministry. Failure to pay him back could just result in having a word with friends in other departments. And he explained that he'd hate to have to saddle them with sudden fines and lost contracts on top of what they already owed. Party Harry Potter. He's not actually a very nice person, is he? Remus Lupin replies. It's a good thing to learn that friendly doesn't mean good. Party Harry Potter. Oh, ah. They let Death Eaters work at the ministry, because Walden McNair is one. Remus subtly glanced over at the man Harry had spotted entering the room, and Sirius's doggy head whipped over to look at the same spot, ears laying back. The pub wasn't fancy enough that anyone objected to Remus bringing in his dog. The muscular man with a bad black mustache didn't seem to notice, since several other heads had done the same. He sneered and ignored it, making his way over to the bar to grab a pint. Remus Lupin replies, "We'd always suspected, but could never prove it. He's a sadist. Executes condemned magical creatures for the ministry." Sirius Black replies, "I wonder if I could get away with biting him." Fortunately for Sirius not getting caught biting a member of the creature department, Harry found a distraction walking in right behind, apparently part of the 9:00 p.m. crowd. Matthew Jordan, Procurer, Level 10, Barbnell's Bindery, Gryffindor, Party Harry Potter. That must be Lee's dad. The man looked enough like his son that it was a pretty good bet. Unfortunately, Bagman had noticed him too. Matty, the aging Quidditch player announced. I've very good odds on the cannons. 5 galleons and a win for them will put you back in the black. Mr. Jordan looked very conflicted. Harry was well aware that the Chudley Cannons, despite being Ron's favourite team, barely ever seemed to win. It sounded like a great way for Lee's family to be out another 5 galleons. Fortunately, Remus was on point, having walked up and said, Matt Jordan, it's been over a decade. Let me buy you a pint. He did a good enough job of acting like he didn't realize he was interrupting Bagman's pitch to not cause an incident. Remus Lupin. Yeah, sure, he agreed, with a glance over at Bagman's table. Can I think about it, Ludo? Sure thing, Matty. Just don't wait too long. Are ever changing. Bagman told him, letting him get led off by Remus. Harry only half listened to this exchange, as Remus seemed to have it well in hand, and something else interesting was happening. Sidling up to the bar across the corner at the far end from Macnair were 2 sketchy-looking individuals who would clearly be related, even without Harry being able to see their names. The 3 had contrived so they could talk without it being obvious to the rest of the bar that they were meeting up, Macnair covering his mouth with his drink and not looking directly at the new couple. For their part, the new arrivals acted like they were talking to each other, but as Harry drifted up invisibly, he could tell that they were talking to Macnair. Electo Caro Mage Hunter, Level 11, Death Eaters. Slytherin Amicus Caro Mage Survivalist, Level 11, Death Eaters. Slytherin. Someone set a basilisk loose at the school. Macnair was speaking into his drink as Harry got close enough to overhear, or at least for his chat log to start recording their conversation. Rumor is that it was Lucius, Amicus said, as if talking to his wife. Sister. They looked enough alike in their pale and pasty way that Harry was hoping it was just sister. Trying to get the old man sacked from his post and kill a few mudbloods while he was at it. That stupid Harry Potter ruined his plan before it even had legs, Alecto sneered, and it was unclear whether she hated Lucius Malfoy more than she did Harry. Believe me, I know it, Macnair agreed. Rumor all over the office is that the minister went to the school special just to meet the brat. He took another swallow of his ale and added, but I don't believe in coincidences. There are rumors about last year, too, about what Quirrell was up to when he came back from the east. If he was coming back, we'd know, Alecto insisted, absently scratching at her left forearm under the long sleeve. He'd call us. Unless he's angry, Macnair almost choked trying to talk around his drink. We denied him. He wouldn't have wanted us stuck in prison, Amicus said, trying to convince himself as much as the others. We're more useful free. That's not what Bella thinks, Macnair disagreed. I went to see her a few times, volunteered for guard duty on holidays. She thinks only the ones that went into that place will have his favor when he returns. She would. Balmy twit, Alecto tittered. Could it be an heir? Amicus asked. I've been hearing about an heir. If he had a kid that could use the mark, why wouldn't that child have contacted us? Macnair asked. He didn't, Alecto said, matter-of-factly. If he'd had the slightest interest in offspring, I would have known. Macnair actually shot a glance of disbelief at the woman who could charitably be described as sturdy, then went back to pretending he wasn't talking to the Carrows. The only rumor I've heard about an heir is that it could be Potter. Harry had to stifle his own scoff of disbelief, as close as he was hovering near the end of the bar to spy on the Death Eaters. Fortunately, it was covered by similar sounds of dismissal from the Carrows. He'd be a powerful ally, could he be turned, Amicus said, clearly doing an impression of Lucius Malfoy. The drawl was a dead giveaway. Wasn't his mother a mudblood? Alecto tagged in. Harry considered hexing the woman in the back as Macnair shrugged. I'm pretty sure most of the rumors are coming from Dawlish these days, but the kid's supposed to be some kind of genius caster and killed the basilisk all by himself. If he's on the old man's side, it could be a big problem for us down the line. Easier to hope he's persuadable. Didn't that all happen months ago anyway? Amicus asked, the voice of reason. Unless Potter did something in the last couple of weeks, it's not related. Basically, I'm hearing you don't know either. Yeah, Macnair admitted. If you tell me if you hear something, I'll tell you if I do. They all nodded, and went back to pretending they didn't know each other as they finished their drinks. Once it was clear that no more information was going to be discussed, and Harry wasn't completely sure what had been discussed, he waited for a break in the traffic across the center of the pub to go back to spying on Bagman. While he'd been absorbed spying on Death Eaters, it seemed like Remus had managed to get Lee's father out of the bar without making a wager, since Harry didn't see the guy around. Instead, Remus was back alone, if you didn't count the enormous black dog at his feet, and observing the bar. Harry wasn't sure how long they should stay. This place seemed like maybe it was a crossroads of information, and they should stick around to see if anyone else relevant came by. But it was also getting late, and as much as he would hate to admit it, very near Harry's bedtime. Nothing new seemed to be happening over at Bagman's table, and Harry was just about to suggest they pack it in when a nameplate he'd seen before came into the bar. He expected that Mr. Borgin would try to catch the Death Eaters at the bar. After all, he'd first encountered the old procurer cozying up to the Malfoys in his creepy dark magic item shop. But Harry was very surprised to see the older man slide into the chair across from Bagman. "Liam, good to see you, pal," the former Quidditch pro said, all smiles for the creepy cursed artifact dealer. "Been meaning to look you up." "I know, Ludo," Borgin said, holding on to his dignity while in the same position as several other people Harry had seen throughout the night. "Look, cash flow is an issue right now, end of year. But I came across something that I think we can trade in kind and settle up." "Worth more to you than to me," Bagman frowned, clearly unhappy with the idea of barter over cold, hard galleons for settling up. But he sighed and asked, "What have you got?" The old man glanced around to make sure nobody was paying too much attention and placed a largish case on the table between them. The trunk was cheap wood, and when Borgin opened it for his bookie to inspect, Harry realized that it was just cover for a slightly smaller, much gaudier case inside. Borgin probably hadn't wanted to carry a jewel-encrusted cask in the open through Nocturne Alley, even the short distance from his shop. "I think this could really move you up in the ministry. Changed hands quite a few times in the last 2 centuries, but I got hold of it. It's a pretty box, I'll allow," Bagman nodded, peering in at the box within a box. "Maybe take a bit off your tab." Borgin waved him off, explaining, "The box isn't the artifact, just its conveyance. Surely you know the tale of the Triwizard Tournament. Haven't had one of them since all those people died. That was just the excuse for why they stopped it. They lost the means of choosing champions." "Oh, yeah," Bagman asked, intrigued despite himself. "Until now," Borgin nodded, opening the interior cask to reveal a glimpse of an ancient-looking large wooden cup. With their hands on the goblet, the ministry could start the tournament back up again, and Ludo Bagman in charge of it. The Goblet of Fire main quest, who will be the greatest mage in Europe. Attend the Quidditch World Cup. Both Bagman and Borgin were momentarily nonplussed as a weirdly close-sounding "damn it" filtered into their ears. As Harry stifled his annoyance at another main quest, starting before he'd finished the last one, they assumed it was probably just a weird trick of the acoustics of the bar and went back to haggling over the artifact. Chapter 38, Guildhall. "The Quidditch World Cup is at least not until the summer," Remus consoled Harry, as they were spending another morning cleaning number 12 Grimmauld Place. It was mostly just Remus, Sirius, and Harry, since Hermione was busy reading and her parents had both had enough of the infested magical townhome and wanted to give Harry more time to bond directly with his godfather and uncle, Remus. They'd managed a beachhead at least, making the front of the house on the main floor and the kitchen underneath clean and free of pests. A spelled top blocked off the central stairway from the entry hall, since there was just no other way to ensure Darksies didn't reinfest areas they'd cleaned until they'd cleaned everything. Scourgify. "I don't know," Harry complained, as he racked up more mastery levels on the scouring charm as they made headway cleaning out the basement. "I think we got way ahead of the other two main quests, so who knows if I'll accidentally skip ahead on this one, too." "I think getting into the World Cup would be great fun," Sirius said, enjoying more than he'd ever expected the simple domesticity of cleaning his house with his remaining best friend and his godson. It helped that neither of them was stopping him from destroying any hated decorations from his childhood that he came across, He even was more than able to help, since he had a new wand they'd gotten from Gregorovich's shop while they'd been out east. The old man was close enough to retirement that he didn't ask many questions. "You're on your own for brewing polyjuice," Remus smirked. "I was never patient enough for the really complicated potions." "Ha, yeah," Sirius nodded. "Should be a potions room down here that we could clean out. Maybe I can figure out how to make wolfsbane potion for you." "That would be great, actually," Remus nodded, touched. "The last few have been a lot easier with Padfoot for company, but I'd feel much safer on the potion, too." "I could help," Harry suggested. "Maybe over the summer," Sirius disagreed. "They both take longer than the week you've got left of holiday. And I doubt Severus would approve of you doing it in secret," Remus added. Harry shrugged and explained, "The twins have loads of secret places around the school that they can brew. Get me the ingredients and the recipe, and I can try it out. I'm not getting much XP from the second-year potions we do in class." "Ah, yes, this mythical XP." Remus just shook his head, and Sirius chortled at the bathroom humor of the way he drew it out. Neither of them could deny the reality of the various powers Harry had demonstrated, but that he could quantify his ability to learn things and improve overall as a person into discrete numbers was the hardest to swallow without a background in role-playing games. "But certainly, I can go over to the alley this week to do a components run. Nothing in the recipes is too hard to come by." He paused and admitted, "I need to go out tomorrow to talk to Dumbledore anyway." He had their full attention, and Harry asked, "He's going to offer you the defense position." The idea finally gelled between remembering the headmaster telling Dawlish he had a replacement in mind right after Harry had mentioned being in touch with Remus, and looking up that the werewolf's Abjurer class meant that he'd mastered defense. "I think so," Remus nodded. I don't know if I should accept it." He put up a hand to stop Sirius, took an objection, and explained, "While I'd enjoy the paycheck and the ability to be in position to help Harry, I feel like I should be out here helping hunt down Peter. And though my occlumency is solid enough that I expect that I could resist the headmaster's casual probing, I still worry about your secrets." As part of their Christmas presents, Remus and Sirius had found copies of the missing books on resisting mind reading for Harry and his friends. "And I don't exactly want to leave Sirius alone. He'd have a lot of trouble making purchases as a dog." "Easy," Sirius told him. "Tell the old man that you just got a new dog and you'd need to bring me to stay at the school. It's not the weirdest familiar anyone's had. And I'm a legitimate companion animal to keep you safe when you have your monthlies. Then we're both available to help. The Dementors are gone, and nobody knows you can be a dog unless the rat tells them right." Harry added, kind of thrilled at the idea of two adults he actually trusted being available, though he'd be sad to see Dawlish go, since he was learning a lot. But he knew before anyone that the aura wasn't sticking around for long, and there could be much worse replacements, like anyone on par with any of the prior defense instructors. Though if there's a jinx on the position, good point. "I'll sign a contract for the rest of the year only," Remus agreed. "Maybe if we put our minds to it, we can figure out how to break the jinx, so I have the option to extend." "Sour grapes if Tom Riddle can't teach defense. No one can. Oh, research methods of jinxing a teaching position. Quest log thinks that's possible," Harry told them. "Sounds like the jinx is because Voldemort didn't get the job." "That was the rumor in the order," Remus agreed. "I think this is a good plan," Sirius nodded, but looked a little sad. "I guess we probably won't be able to finish cleaning the house until the summer, though." "Why have you been so interested in cleaning the place up?" Remus asked him. Sirius explained, "Well, I was kind of hoping that Harry would want to come live here if it was safe." "What? Yes, definitely," Harry said, not having even realized not going back to the Dursleys' house for the summer was even an option. "Yeah," Sirius beamed, thrilled by the enthusiasm. "I know that life with your aunt hasn't been great, but you've gotten a taste of the difficulty staying with me over the last few days, if we can't clear my name." "Are you kidding? This has been so much better. I'd stay here with you even if I was having to fight Doxies and Boggarts every day." Both men shared a look. The Grangers had warned them about their suppositions about the Dursleys' treatment of Harry, but that he'd rather live in a decrepit house infested with magical pests and dark magic. "Dumbledore could be an issue," Remus warned them. "I've been trying to visit Harry for years and he kept putting me off. He seemed to think his aunt's home was the safest place for him. You'll have 5 months to work on him, Sirius waved off, slightly manic with his excitement about the idea. What do you think, pup? Want to come here to live with me? Change main residence to 12 Grimold Place. Yes, Harry agreed to both Sirius and the system prompt. Set 12 Grimold Place as Marauders Guildhall. The system says this is my main residence now, and it wants to know if this can be our Guildhall, Harry asked the men. Ah, sure, Sirius agreed. Is that like a clubhouse? I always wanted a clubhouse for the Marauders. Marauders Guildhall established. Oh. Wicked, Harry said, exploring the new pane that had appeared next to the Marauders on his guild interface. A three-dimensional map of the house floated above a listing of each of the rooms, and as he selected rooms, they would highlight and zoom in on the map, with information about them appearing below. I can see all the rooms in the house in a list. Most of them have the filthy condition and little unknown conditions. That's probably whatever is hiding in there. I bet that fills in when we explore the room. Yeah, the bedroom near the stairs has Boggart listed. Well, that will make it a lot easier to tell when we've handled everything. Remus just shook his head at the powers of this game system. Ah, interesting. There's a section for the whole house, Harry narrated, still exploring the new interface. Guildhall features unplottable muggle-repelling wards, Class 4 space expansion, Level 3, compatible upgrades Potter blood wards for Delia's charm. I didn't realize it was unplottable, Harry said, familiar with the term from his inability to get a waypoint directly to Hogwarts. Doesn't do much this deep in the city, Sirius explained. But that's why the house only really appears if you're looking for it. Not as good as a Fidelius charm for preventing unwanted guests, but it's supposed to keep the riffraff out, as my mother used to say. Harry nodded. It says that a Fidelius charm would be compatible. Also Potter blood wards. He inspected that little element for more information, since he'd never heard of such a thing. Potter blood wards, existing blood wards, established by Albus Dumbledore from Lily Potter's sacrificial magic, could be relocated to this location, if anchored to Sirius Black cousin. Both Sirius Black and Harry Potter would need to remain in residence at least 1 month per year to maintain ward power. Whoa, he said, then read out that information to the two men. Blood wards, Remus nearly shouted. No wonder he wouldn't let you live anywhere else. That's powerful but borderline dark magic. He must have attached them to your aunt since she was Lily's closest living relative. But I could be the anchor. Sirius looked confused. Even though I'm Harry's cousin, not Lily's. We are cousins, Harry asked. Sirius explained. I'll show you on the tapestry once we get up to that room, but your great-grandmother Doria is my great-aunt. Remus considered. Clearly Dumbledore thought it would only work with Lily's blood relations, but if the game system disagrees, how will we even move them, though? Harry asked. Before Remus could admit he didn't know, a new prompt appeared. Does Sirius Black consent to anchor Potter blood wards? Absolutely, Sirius agreed without question when Harry read that prompt to him. Pay 500 XP to transfer Potter blood wards to Marauder Guildhall. Sure, Harry shrugged. 500 XP wasn't nothing, but he'd earn it back pretty quickly. Blood wards transferring Harry suddenly felt a little lightheaded, and clearly so did Sirius. Both of them carefully settled down to the floor so they wouldn't fall, as Remus stared at them in worry. But after a moment, the feeling subsided. Harry couldn't be sure, but he had a sudden sense that the building had gone from a cool but dangerous old house to becoming more of a home to him than anywhere but Hogwarts. I think it worked, he told the adults. Guildhall features unplottable muggle-repelling wards, Class 4, space expansion, Level 3. Potter blood wards compatible upgrades for Delia's charm. He inspected the feature to see if anything had changed, and it explained. Potter blood wards originally established by Albus Dumbledore from Lily Potter's sacrificial magic. These wards are anchored to Sirius Black cousin. Individuals or magics hostile to Harry Potter cannot enter the location. Both Sirius Black and Harry Potter must remain in residence at least 1 month per year to maintain ward power. Wards expire in 1676 days. Wicked, Harry said. He summarized that for the men, but then asked, I wonder why that many days. Remus used a charm to write numbers in the air as he did the math longhand and said, I think that must be your 17th birthday. Magical adulthood. It makes sense that the wards would break at the same time the trace would. Sirius was grinning like a loon, though, and finally gasped out, This must mean that Dumbledore can't send Harry back to that place. He was keeping him there for the Blood Wards, and now they're here. Welcome home, pup. Chapter 39, Dead Zone. Though he'd learned a lot of cleaning and maintenance charms over his time at the new Marauders Guild Hall, Harry's actual spellcasting scores hadn't gone up due to already being very high. He had grabbed a point of creature handling, a few points of home repair, and best of all, 2 points of the instance skill. His radius of instancing was notably, if not hugely, larger than it had started. Remus had arrived back from his meeting with Dumbledore with a bag full of potions ingredients that he'd picked up for them, and a brand new Hogwarts Staff Guild tag floating over his head. Thus, most of their cleaning for the rest of the holiday had been with an eye toward trying to make the place stable in its filth enough that creature, with strict orders, could at least maintain the level of cleaning they'd already accomplished. They weren't really expecting the miracle of him making more progress while they were all at Hogwarts for the spring term. They traveled down to the Grangers for New Year's Eve. Harry was barely getting over the suck-through-a-straw feeling of side-along apparition. He just needed to travel by Phoenix and night bus to finish off his quest. As Hermione charged out into her back garden to announce, "Come on, you need to read this." When he'd messaged ahead, she'd replied that she'd finally found useful information about Acrisdes in Sagittarius Black's autobiography. "We're serious," she belatedly realized. Remus blinked, admitting, "Hopefully he hasn't splinched himself. I've been handling apparition for him lately, but I had to take Harry. He said he still had the trick of it." Just in time, there was another pop of displaced air as Sirius appeared in the yard near them. He had a long nightgown that seemed to be still damp, clothespins attached, draped over him. "Ugh," he said with some chagrin, "all of these homes look alike. I guess I didn't have my destination fully in mind the first time. I wonder whose yard I was in." "Were you seen?" Remus asked, slightly acerbically. "I suppose if there are reports of he checked what he'd flailed into off of the clothesline. Nightgown thief in the neighborhood, maybe." "At least we didn't let you take Harry." The werewolf rolled his eyes. "Definitely more apparition practice," Sirius agreed. "Okay, come on," Hermione insisted, trusting them to follow her inside. "Mum, Dad, they're here. We'll be in the den." As they all bemusedly traipsed after her through the house, they found that she'd commandeered most of the nicely appointed, bookshelf-laden sitting room for her research. The autobiography had pride of place in the middle of a table with a notepad and several removed sheets of paper covered in a handwriting sprawled around it. "I had to read the whole thing, and that's why it took so long," she prefaced. "There were several passages that I didn't realize were references to Acrisdes until later. Then I had to work my way back to find them again." And this was before anyone much thought to standardize spelling, and Sagittarius seemed to take that as a personal challenge to spell things differently every single time. "But you found something," Harry interrupted the disclaimers. She nodded and flipped to a densely filled page in her notebook and transcribed the relevant portions with approximate dates. "I may have cleaned up the language a little too, but you can read the original if you're curious what it actually said." Standing out of the way, she allowed them to read her work. Glancing at the open biography and its chicken-scratch handwriting and early modern grammar, Harry was happy to get Hermione's version. 1488, my eldest daughter, Polaris, remains missing after the conclusion of the long political upheaval that has plagued even the world of the wise. I spoke harshly to her at our last encounter concerning her unnecessary support for the Yorks. It is no longer fitting for us to throw our magic behind mundane politics, especially with the rising superstition in Scotland and word of a new manual for hunting witches on the continent. I hope she did not perish in some foolish participation in the war. 1490, I have finally received word of Polaris. She has spent the last several years apprenticed to a wizard not known to me nor with my permission. While I am relieved to finally have word that she survived, this behavior cannot be tolerated. Given the liberties often taken by masters during an apprenticeship, I cannot but wonder if this is a plot to encroach upon black stock. Why else would he not confirm her father's permission for the education, nor seek payment? Discovering the truth is complicated by the vague description of where this wizard's home may be located. The closest I have found is somewhere in or near the North Sea. 1491, attending court to congratulate the king for his spare heir, I came across a term, Azkaban. Some of the nobility were bemoaning the loss of sailing ships in the North Sea, and the tales of sailors referenced some dark island that they had begun to avoid lest they be lured to their destruction. I rather expect that the term is a misunderstanding of Jewish sailors referencing their Bible's place of destruction, but it appears to be sticking. I intend to ask my fellows what word they've had of whether such a place might be the dwelling place of wizards. 1492, my Polaris was not the only missing young witch or wizard. As I began to ask peers about Azkaban and the North Sea, more and more admitted that their own children had disappeared in similar circumstances. We seem to have all been in a conspiracy of silence, not wanting to lose face. Perhaps 24 such are missing that I can account for among my peers. My inquiries have begun a mission to get to the bottom of what appeared to be isolated incidents of children bucking tradition. Perhaps now something will be done. 1493, a man arrived to the court of the wise for the midsummer rites, middle-aged and unknown to me. Unassuming, even ugly, he nonetheless had a strange charisma. He seemed to know everyone's name and their allegiances before they could introduce themselves. "You must be Polaris's father," he told me with only a glance. "She is well." I pressed him, and he waved away my concerns, but eventually admitted that he was gathering pupils and friends to pass along his unique knowledge. "If you have been abducting our children, you must meet us on the dueling pitch," I insisted, explaining the affront he had been doing to the great houses of magic. As others whose children he had also taken realized what was happening, they joined in. "You do not see why they would leave you. Very well, if I must duel you for their disposition, I will do so. Be sure that is what you want." His wand appeared in his hand from nowhere, and he did not seem at all threatened by the lords of several houses. And it turned out that he should not be. He handily defeated each of us, one after another, leaving wounds that would scar just enough to remind us of the defeat. He used curses with ease that I have been unable to master, and many that I have never seen before. Is he some new rising dark lord? I must have wondered aloud. "I have no interest in ruling your country, merely pushing the boundaries of magic," he sneered, before taking his leave. We never even got his name, for all that he already knew all of ours. 1495, Polaris arrived suddenly at my home, half-mad, missing for nearly a decade. Her eyes flicked about, seeing things that weren't there, or perhaps these things were there, and her new master had taught her to see them. "I am sorry, father," she told me. "We made a mistake. It is too much. I cannot take it." He was sure he had perfected it. We agreed to finally gain the power. We did not know what had become of the sailors. The ones he'd tested the ritual on. Do not let me become one of them. We have gotten little else of sense from her since she has been at home. She traveled here somehow, seemingly in secret, from that island in the sea. I finally have a name, Echrisdes. What dark magic has he done to my daughter? And why does she know names of strangers and prove herself able to summon and vanish items from nowhere without a wand, much as her mentor had done? 1497, Echrisdes has hidden his island away, unplottable and unseen. Were it on land, we might eventually find it and break his wards, but there is far too much sea to search for this villain. If he did to the other signs what was done to my daughter, what is he up to upon that foul rock? 1498, after 3 long years of wasting, Polaris passed this morning. When she died, something rose up from her body. A foul shade cloaked in black. It came after us and resisted all magics. It fell upon the healer and placed its horrifying face upon his mouth, as if to suck out his very life or soul. We were barely able to summon him free and trap the wraith in Polaris' sick room. Fortunately, it appears to be blocked by walls and doors rather than truly spectral. A fierce cold emanated from the room, and those that came near felt a deep sorrow inflicted upon us by the creature. After hours of research, we could think of no other way to access Polaris's body than to fight the beast. My second eldest son, Perseus, is skilled in the protector charm and thought it might work against such a dark entity. He proved to be correct, though his silver bear could only herd the creature out of the manor and keep it away from us, not destroy it. As soon as it saw open sky, it flew away into the night, east, as if to return to its master. If only we had thought to follow it to destroy its home. Now, with this curse on my family finally consummated, I can only hope to never hear of any of this again. May the wizard that destroyed my daughter be destroyed in kind by the foulness he has unleashed. Hermione waited for the three of them to finish reading, each looking up pensively as they finished. Harry worked out. He had the game system, knowing people's names, drawing objects out of nowhere. Maybe he could do everything I can. Remus caught on to what she was really worried about. He tried to give it to his students. The sailors that went missing on Azkaban were experiment subjects, and it worked. And when Polaris Black died, she became a Dementor. Hermione shook her head and explained, I don't know if that was her. I think the broken game system that he gave her came free when she died. Maybe they're not trying to eat souls. Maybe they're just trying to find a new player for the game, but they're too glitched to make it work right. She saw that nobody was going to disagree with her. Harry, I don't think I want the game system anymore. The Prisoner of Azkaban main quest, a secret from your past has escaped. Get to Hogwarts, learn about the crimes of Sirius Black *, learn about Dementors, learn more about Ecrisdes, investigate Azkaban for what Ecrisdes left behind, blanching at the seemingly impossible next task the quest had set for him. Harry said, I'm not sure I do either.